Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Hi, I'm Tom podcast. I very much appreciate you being here. I apologize that, I'm uploading. If you are watching and you're returning from my other two videos, welcome. I'm sorry that my video posting is sporadic and not continuous throughout the weeks. I have some computer issues that make it very difficult to upload episodes sometimes. Sometimes I record a whole episode and then it just refuses to upload to YouTube. And I have to just wait a week and try it all again next week. So here we go. This is hopefully episode 3 of the Hi, I'm Tom podcast. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Again, if you don't know me, my name is Tom Greer. I'm an avid podcaster. Been podcasting for the better part of 7 or 8 years, doing the Grindhouse Radio. You can actually catch that every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, anywhere you can get podcasts. It's a pop culture and celebrity interview podcast. Actually, one of the most recent episode that we got went live on Thursday, the day I'm recording this, actually, and we interviewed Emily Swallows. She's the armorer from The Mandalorian, the one that makes Mando's armor. Looks pretty cool. She's a very nice person. She's also from Supernatural. It was a very good interview, so go check that out on anywhere you can get your podcasts and also thegrindhouseradio.com. But yeah, no, I'm here to talk sports and, anything that pops into my head. Just that, I just always enjoyed podcasting, and I always, I talk to myself on a daily basis as it is. So I figured I might as well just put a microphone in front of me and, see what I can cook up and what I can talk about. And this week it's all, sports driven because, I always love sports talk, and my past 2 episodes have been a lot of sports talk. And, like I said, like I've said before, this is a very work in progress podcast. You know what I mean? Like I don't know exactly where this is going to take me or what exactly I'm going to be doing. I just know I'm here to record stuff, have fun, and see what people like, what people don't like. So if you could, please hit me with a follow, subscribe, hop in the comments, hit me with a like, please. It would be greatly appreciated. Anything you like about the show, let me know in the comments. Anything you don't like about the show, let me know in the comments. I think I'm done addressing the Zambo stuff that's been in a couple of my videos comments before. I think we did that on the show on GHR, and I did it on my last episode. So I think we're done with that. But if you got any other questions about it, I'll answer you if I feel like it. Yeah, I'm chilling here. It's a rainy I'm recording this on a very rainy Thursday. Getting ready for the Islanders to drop the puck in about an hour for opening day of hockey season. We'll get to that. I'm sitting here in my Islanders hat, sporting my Roosevelt's Lion King shirt. So go check out my friends at the Roosevelts. That's rsvlts.com. They are great people, great company, and they come out with some amazing shirts. They just dropped a Nightmare Before Christmas collection, a Disney Villains collection. They're not all Disney. They got other properties that you can go check out. There was some Invader Zim stuff that I got. There was some Coco stuff that I got. There's Spider-Man stuff that I got. They're literally pumping out collections. I think they just announced one that was like Street Fighter and Ninja Turtles, which looks freaking amazing. But this one's one of my favorites because it's just got like all the markings and like drawings from. You can even see, I'm like turn around here. You can even see like the tree drawn Simba right there that Rafiki did. That looks really cool. This is one of my favorites. But that's them, Roosevelts.com, rsvlts.com. Go check them out. And, man, I appreciate you guys being here. And I appreciate everybody that's been watching. I really, I just have fun. And, I just jotted down today some stuff that I'd like to talk about. And to start us off today, I know we're almost a week away from all of this happening, but, I haven't done an episode since the Mets lost in the wild card round to the San Diego Padres, and I feel like I have to do a little bit of a postmortem, like a ending of the Mets baseball season kind of talk on this show, considering I am a massive Mets fan. And, I said it a little bit on GHR in my sports segment, Tom's Takes, and I'm going to probably just go into more about it here. This is a very... it's a very interesting way to define the Mets season for me. I'd said in previous episodes, and I've said to people when I talk sports all the time, that I this is the best Mets team that I've ever seen in my entire life. 101 wins. There really is no denying that. The Mets don't ever win 100 games. The Mets rarely make the playoffs. The Mets rarely look as dominant as they did this past season in the regular season. They were literally one of the best teams in baseball all year, leading in the NL East all year until the very end. But they were right up there. You know what I mean? They were right up there with the Dodgers, right up there with the Braves, right up there with the Astros. They were one of the best teams in baseball all year. The pitching held up when Jake was out and when Max went down. The lineup, for the most part, most of the season, was firing on all cylinders. When guys needed to step up and play, guys stepped up and played. Sure, Pete had his down times. Lindor had his down times. Escobar, I think, probably had just a down year. They still got it done. They still won over 100 games, which is insane to say. Coming as a Mets fan who's used to being at the bottom of the basement year after year, this was, regular season-wise, one of the best years I'd ever watched. One of the most fun seasons I'd ever been a part of because all they did was win. Until September. Because that's what we kept hearing. We kept hearing if the Mets could survive up until September, they got an easy schedule. They had a lot of games against the Marlins, the Nationals. They had one series against the Braves towards the end of the season, but for the most, the Pirates. But for the most part, that September schedule was supposed to be easy. And what happened? September came, and everybody went cold. They got swept by the Cubs. The Nationals took 2 or 3 from them. I believe the Marlins took 2 or 3 from them. I think the Pirates even took 2 or 3 from them. Losing to teams that they had no business losing to. Which brings us to the Braves series, where I believe going into the Braves series, the Mets, I think they were separated by, at most it had to have been 2 games. I think it was 2 games or like a game and a half. All the Mets had to do in that series was win 1. They had to win 1 game to have the tiebreaker, and if the season came to an end and the Braves and Mets were tied like they were, the Mets would still win the division. Well, what happened? We know what happened. The Braves swept them. The Mets went into Atlanta at the end of September in the biggest series of the year when it the biggest series. Those 3 games were basically 3 playoff games. That was a playoff series. It was a wild card series. And the Mets choked. Choked, maybe not choked, but they rolled over and died. They did not show up to Atlanta. Scherzer got shelled, Jake got shelled, and Chris Bassett got absolutely shelled. And the offense was non-existent for much, like it was for much of September, was non-existent. And the Mets lost the division. A division that they held basically all season. They lost in a matter of 3 games at the end of September to the Atlanta Braves, who, now, look, I understand. I understand it sucks, but the Braves were a very good team. The Mets had the Braves on their heels the entire year. They got out to that big 10-game lead. The Braves played like 800 baseball, basically, after the All-Star break and closed the gap. They were good. They were better than the Mets. That's just the way it is. Mets fans got to be able to take that. They were better than the Mets when it mattered. And it turns out that Braves series was a precursor to what we got in the playoffs. Because they finish that Braves series, they lose the division, or they fall into second place in the division. They go into that National Series, and they do what we expected. Beat the crap out of the Nationals, out of the worst team in baseball. They believe they sweep them, tie with the Braves, but the Braves swept the Mets, so they had the tiebreaker, and the Braves win the division. The Mets go into the wild card. So you're ready going into the playoffs feeling down. You were expecting to have that nice first-round bye, cushy first-round bye. We'll wait for the winner of then it would probably have been Braves versus no. Yeah, it probably would have been like Braves Padres. And ultimately that didn't happen. The Mets found themselves in the wild card facing the Padres, a team that had their number all season. The Mets could not beat the Padres all season. If you asked me which one I wanted to play, the Phillies or the Padres, I would have said the Phillies because, yeah, it's a divisional game. Yeah, the Phillies would have shown up and played real hard because it's a divisional game, a chance to take the Mets out. But I believe the Mets stood a better chance against the Phillies than they did against the San Diego Padres. The Padres, by the way, who were slumping ever since the All-Star break. Juan Soto wasn't playing well, and that Josh Bell wasn't playing well. That whole team was just underperforming since the trade deadline. But they come into Citi Field, and what happens? Rex Scherzer, 7. I believe the final score was 7-1. Second game on Saturday, I was at it. I was actually almost right behind home plate. I was in section 18. I was right near the we think I was with my cousin and a couple of his friends. We were right near the players' wives or girlfriends. And the only reason we think that that's who they were was because the section that they were sitting in was surrounded by police officers, and they were all wearing the same San Diego Padre jacket with the same San Diego Padre knit hat because it was, I guess it was cold for somebody that was from San Diego, and they looked too good to just be average San Diego Padre fans. I'm sorry. They had their own little roped off section in the club. But Saturday comes and the Mets do well. They hit. I believe the final score was 7-3. Got a little shaky in the end when Ottavino loaded the bases and the tying run came to the plate, but the Mets held on and won 7-3. Nice win. Citi Field was electric. You had a good feeling going into the following game. And then Chris Bassett takes the mound and wasn't as good as they needed him to be, and you can't even necessarily that final game, that third game, you can't really put on the pitching because the Mets got one hit in an elimination game when you were one of the top scoring teams all year. I believe the Mets were top 5, at the very least top 10 in scoring all year. They go into an elimination game, a winner go home game, to go to the NLDS against was it Jared Musgrove? I don't know how to. Let me take a look at that real quick. I want to remember his name. Musgrove. Joe Musgrove. That's what it is. Joe Musgrove of the San Diego Padres. And they get one hit and shutout of the and kicked from the wild card round, ending their season. And that's where this becomes kind of bittersweet because, yes, this was one of the best Mets seasons I've ever seen, regular season-wise, but you needed more. This was not a team that was meant to go out in the wild card round. I was saying that the Mets had to have to be making the World Series this year because that 2015 team made it. If the 2015 Mets made it to the World Series, there's no reason that this team shouldn't have because this team was way more talented. I want to go take a look. Let's take a look. Mets 2015 lineup. World Series lineup. Let's take a look. Mets and Royals announced their rosters. No, that's not what I want. I want the lineup. Give me the lineup. All right, let's go take a look here. It's this one, I think. Yeah, here we go. All right, so we got for the New York Mets, Curtis Granderson, David Wright, who I believe still was having his back problems at this point, Daniel Murphy, Yoenis Cespedes, Lucas Duda, Travis d'Arnaud, who at the time was not the Travis d'Arnaud we see in Atlanta. I mean, he could hit a little bit, but d'Arnaud was riddled with injuries when he was with the Mets, and they never handled him right. Michael Conforto, who was on a tear at the time. Wilmer Flores, fresh off of the crying games, hitting big home runs. Kelly Johnson, who was just a nice role player that they got, who it says DH here, but there was no DH. Oh, well, I guess they would have been if they were playing in Kansas City. And then pitching was Matt Harvey. You can't tell me that this is a better team than what we saw in 2015. If we remember correctly, the Mets were dead in the water until the trade deadline. Until the trade deadline of 2015, where Yoenis Cespedes came and was hitting a home run every single day up until the playoffs. That team we thought was dead. We thought was like, all right, it's another Mets season. It's going to be a waste. Oh, there's always next year. Here we go. And No, it took Yoenis Cespedes coming here and carrying them all the way to the playoffs, and then once they made it to the playoffs, Daniel Murphy carried them all the way to a World Series. That team was not the talented team we would expect to make it to a World Series, but they went on a nice run and they made it fun. This team this year, the 2022 Mets, was better than that. Defensively, they were better. Offensively, they were better, and they didn't get the job done. When it mattered, they went into the shell, and or my better one, it's Halloween, they turned into pumpkins. Like how Cinderella, when the strike of midnight, when her carriage turned into a pumpkin, the New York Mets turned into pumpkins when it mattered. The clock struck midnight when we went into Atlanta, and they turned into pumpkins. They just forgot how to play baseball. They just couldn't hit. Pete looked like he was struggling because it looks like anytime Pete Alonso falls into a slump, it just looks like he's trying to play hero baseball and try to put the whole team on his back and do more than he has to. It looks like he's always pressing whenever he falls into a slump. Lindor had one of the best seasons of a Mets shortstop could have had a great bounce back year, but when the playoffs came, he fell into a slump. Towards the end of the season, he fell into a slump. Mark Canha fell into a huge slump. I think that dude was batting close to 300 most of the year, and then September comes and he hits the tank. Eduardo Escobar, he had a rough year. September came and he figured it out in the month of September, but then the playoffs come and he was a non-factor. Jeff McNeil, I'm never going to complain about Jeff McNeil. That dude was a batting champion, was amazing. No complaints about Jeff. Love that. The pitcher on the Pirates who broke Marte's hand. I'm not going to wish ill will on anybody because I don't want that bad juju to come back, but that really hurt the Mets. Not having Starling Marte for a good portion of the month of September, or at least the stretch run in the month of September, most notably that series in Atlanta, really hurt the Mets. The catching position being an absolute zero is brutal. Tomas Nido stinks if he's not bunting. James McCann, I'm not convinced knows how to hit a baseball. I've seen him hit a couple of home runs, but that dude stinks. He could not buy a hit. He could, cliche, he couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. Like it's crazy. Like James McCann looked, I don't know how the Mets were spun zoned into signing him and thinking that was going to be a good idea. I mean, I thought it was going to be at the time. We were sold a bill of goods because this dude stinks. Absolute zero. You just know that when he comes to the plate, he's probably going to strike out. He's probably going to take some horrendous, ugly swing, not even come close. And he's just a useless player. That's the way it is. Francisco Alvarez, they called Francisco Alvarez up way too late. They should have called him up at the beginning of September, end of August, so we could at least get some playing time, get some reps up in the big leagues. Not like, hey, let's call him up and throw him in the biggest series of the year and make him figure it out with a week to go left in the season. Give him some time in the bigs so we could see big league pitching. But they didn't do that. They just call him up against the Braves and hope he figures it out. And he looked good against the Nationals, but he didn't even see him in the wild card round. And then the trade deadline, everybody, this is not the reason. Like I would like it to be known, this is not the sole reason the Mets failed. But Billy Epler failed the Mets by not addressing anything at the trade deadline. You knew all year, while the Mets were scoring all these runs, being one of the better teams in baseball, you knew that they still needed that one bat. They still needed that one thumper in the middle of the lineup. And for a while, it was go get J.D. Martinez or Jock Peterson. What did they go get? Tyler Naquin, Daniel Vogelbach, and Darren Ruff. In the beginning, that looked great. Naquin was performing, and he was solid in the outfield. Vogelbach was getting timely hits, and Darren Ruff has been a zero since he got here. But the first two, looked like solid role players. But then they came back to earth and were the average to below average baseball players that we knew that they were. And what has been an Achilles heel of the Mets virtually my entire life, I'm 30 years old, the bullpen. The New York Mets never have a stable bullpen. And going into the year, or at least coming close to the trade deadline, you heard Billy Epler saying how there's going to be a robust reliever market at the trade deadline. They brought back Mychal Givens, and that's it from the Cubs, and that's it. So the trade deadline, when you need bullpen help, when you desperately need bullpen help, because at the time you had Drew Smith down, Ottavino was really your only reliable reliever, and he was a little shaky. Lugo was having trouble figuring it out. The only reliable relievers you had was Adam Ottavino, a little bit like I just said, and Edwin Diaz, who's the best closer in baseball. And to me, it's not even close. You needed more arms to solidify that bullpen, and they didn't do it. And then, like I said, Tyler Naquin, Daniel Vogelbach, and Darren Ruff, they fell to pieces and were not the impact bats that the New York Mets desperately needed. They desperately needed another thumper to play DH. The Mets didn't have a DH all year. The only time that they had a DH was when they let Pete do it, because Pete is just, when he's on and can rake. But they needed that. They needed another big bat in that lineup to protect Pete, to protect Lindor, to drive in more runs, and they didn't have that. Once you got past McNeil in the lineup, it was pretty much a zero, because Canna at the end was kind of hit or miss. Escobar was having a bad year all year, and like I said, Tomas Nido and James McCann were totally useless. Unless you needed Tomas Nido to drop down a bunt, he was useless. Absolutely useless. You just knew every single time one of them stepped to the plate, it's probably going to result in a strikeout or a double play. Because down the stretch, I just watched the Mets ground into way too many double plays. It was brutal. The Mets did what they always do. It's what can go wrong will go wrong. And the Mets fell apart. That's what happened. I've been a very pessimistic Met fan over the years, rightfully so. You know what I mean? Because we've just seen garbage year after year. It's been garbage. I think I've seen the Mets make the playoffs 4, 5, 6 times maybe in my entire life, so it doesn't happen very much. And I see a lot of bad baseball and a lot of bad teams. This shouldn't have been that. There were a lot of people saying, "Oh, the season is a failure if you don't win the World Series." Yada yada yada. I didn't necessarily look at it that way. I looked at it as, if I get a competitive team all the way into the NLCS, I'm content and feel like I like where the team's going. I don't know how to feel now, because let's go to I'm gonna look this up right now. I know the Mets got a lot of Mets free agents 2022. Ranking priority of Mets free agents on Metsmerized Online. So I'm going to pull up over here again. So we got this is from Metsmerized Online. Jake's a free agent. Diaz is a free agent. Nimmo's a free agent. Bassett's a free agent. Ottavino, Lugo, Taijuan Walker, Trevor Williams, Trevor May, Mychal Givens, Joely Rodriguez, Tommy Hunter, Tyler Naquin. It's you know what I mean? I mean, like, really, the biggest ones are up at the top. It's Jake. It's Diaz. It's Nimmo. It's Bassett, Ottavino, like Lugo. These are like, at least Jake is huge. Jake has been toying around. Jake has been toying around. He's going to opt out. You hear the rumors around the league that he might take less money to leave New York and go play someplace else that doesn't have the pressures of New York. So you have that up in the air. You don't know if he's coming back. Edwin Diaz, you got to basically give that dude a blank check, because I don't know how you could possibly let the best closer in baseball walk away when you already have bullpen problems. Adam Ottavino has been one of your more reliable relievers all year, even though he did have some shaky moments. You can't let him walk, I'd imagine. Do you let Lugo leave? Because, I mean, towards the end of the season, Lugo seemed to figure it out, even though he was a little rough. And to be honest, the Mets bullpen isn't that great to begin with. So can you afford losing these guys? Chris Bassett. I know Chris Bassett he didn't have a great series against the Braves, and he didn't do great in his start against the Padres, but I mean, he was a relatively solid starter all year. Do you bring him back? And Brandon Nimmo was a solid center fielder, and we don't know if he's coming back. This Mets team that we saw this year might look drastically different next year. So this was it. This was the year to go for it. Balls to the walls. And look, I understand I understand that the Mets have a depleted farm system, and the reason that they didn't make any big trades at the deadline to bring in any of those impact players was because they wanna be able to build a sustained winner. They want to have sustained success. So after this crop of Mets is done, a younger crop of Mets can come in and continue the winning, continue the momentum moving forward, and continuing the team to be better and winning World Series and being contenders in the playoffs. But you had a shot. You had two of the best pitchers in baseball, Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer. Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil winning a batting title, Francisco Lindor. You had a team constructed to win right now. The New York Mets were built to win right now, and they didn't do it. They disappointed us once again. I don't want to say same old Mets because it's not the same old Mets. This was a better Mets team, a significantly better Mets team. And you see the same old, if this was the same old Mets, I would have no confidence that this team would be good next year. I would say, well, that was the flash in the pan and we're done next year. No. With Steve Cohen at the helm, owning the team, and the commitment he has to putting a winner on the field, I know that the Mets are going to be better, or they're going to be competing next year. This wasn't a one and done. Like, sure, some of these players might not be back. The team might look a little different. I can't believe I just forgot to mention Taijuan Walker before because, I mean, I know he was I know he's a first half pitcher, but he was one of the best pitchers on the team for a while. Like, I know that this team might look different next year, but I'm still confident that the Mets are going to do what they can to make this a contender next year. But it does, but it does have that same old Mets feeling because you're so excited. You're thinking this is the time that they're going to turn the corner, and you just have that blind belief that, oh my God, this is it. We've got the team, we've got the players, we've got the front office, we've got the manager. Because Buck worked wonders for the Mets, like had them playing above and beyond, better than we could have even expected. It showed us what a real manager can actually do because we had to deal with the bums known as Mickey Callaway and Luis Rojas. But they didn't get it done. They flamed out, fell apart, and now they have all of these free agents to deal with, and I'm curious to see what happens next year. Is Jake going to leave us? I think think you got to do, obviously you got to do everything in your power to make him stay, but is Jake, I hope he does, and he's the best pitcher in baseball, the best pitcher I've ever seen, and it would be devastating to watch Jacob deGrom leave the New York Mets. It would be real painful. But it's a possibility. If he's going to leave, I just really hope he doesn't go to Atlanta. I really can't. I can't see him going to Atlanta. It was actually I was at a party over the weekend on Saturday, like before I went to the Met game, and one of my girlfriend's friends, her father is an usher at Citi Field. Met him a few times. Great guy, really nice guy. And apparently he saw Jacob deGrom's brother in the stands. He was like, you look familiar. He talked to him and stuff like that. And he swears to me that Jake's not coming back. The dude swears to me that Jake's brother told him he's not coming back, and he wants to go play he would like to go play for the Rays because Jake's from Florida and lives in Florida. But if he can't go to the Rays, he'd go to the Braves, which would be devastating. I can't imagine. I can't fathom Jacob deGrom being an Atlanta Brave, especially after the Braves getting all of those deals done, locking up Michael Harris, having Acuna locked up. I think Spencer Strider is his name, the dude with the mustache, got him locked up, like locking up all of this young talent for the foreseeable future on relatively good deals. I just can't see Jake going there and dominating with the Braves. That would be absolutely heartbreaking because you know that they would just make the Mets' lives hell for the next, decade? They might do that anyway without Jake. But this team that we all loved this year might look drastically different. And whether it's good, bad, same, we don't know. This feels like a missed opportunity. It feels like a missed opportunity to strike while the iron's hot and go win a championship when you have a team that was a piece or two away from being able to do that. So we'll wait and see. Word on the street is, from what I'm seeing, from some of the articles that I've been reading, is if Jake goes elsewhere, the Mets might look to bring in Shohei, and I feel like you have to. If Jake goes and signs someplace else, you got to get somebody that can come in here and be a dominant starting pitcher along with Max, because Max has been dealing with injuries, and somebody who's a superstar, because Jake's a superstar, one of the best pitchers in baseball, if not the best pitcher in baseball. So Shohei would have to, I'd imagine, have to be the guy. I don't know who else is available going into the year, but the Mets got some tinkering to do, and some big time tinkering to do. They need more bats in that lineup. They're probably going to need a starting pitcher, and they're definitely going to need some bullpen help. So, if they don't bring back Nimmo, I love the Trey Turner idea. You know what I mean? Grab Trey Turner, have him play second, have Lindor play short. You're going to have Escobar and Beatty playing third. And then if Nimmo's not coming back, you move Marte to center, McNeil and right, Cannon left. And I think that's still a good team. I'd like Nimmo to come back just because he's a great on-base guy, and I don't want to lose him, but you gotta pivot. You know what I mean? I think they said that they would be inclined to bringing back Nimmo, but only if the number's right, and who knows what Nimmo's going to wind up commanding. High on base guy, just gets on base regularly. He's a prototypical leadoff guy. So all he does is get on base. And, he might not have the greatest arm in center field, but he definitely came around and was a significantly better center fielder than a lot of people gave him credit for. So I wonder if you guys can actually hear the rain. It's pouring outside, so I wonder if you guys can hear that, or if this noise gate actually is doing its job. The Mets are out of the playoffs. It was really sad. It took me a while. Thank God I'm doing the show now, and I wasn't doing it like the day after, because if I was doing it the day after, it would be pretty grim. You guys would probably be like, anybody would probably be putting the link for the suicide prevention hotline in the comments of my chat, in the comments of this video, because I would just be a miserable wreck of a human, because I did not take that loss well. It's something I got to work out in therapy, I would imagine, because I just take losses from my sports teams way too hard, and it's just like, literally just feel like, it literally feels like I was so excited because I just assumed that it was a foregone conclusion that they were going to beat the Padres, but when they didn't, it just feels like they reached into my chest, pulled out my beating heart, let it beat a couple times in their hand, and then literally stomped on it. That's what it felt like. Because I finally believed that I finally have a team that I can root for that's going to go win a World Series, and they didn't. And not only that, I have to watch the Yankees in the playoffs, when I think the Mets are a better team than the Yankees. Even though the Yankees won the division and the Mets didn't. I haven't listened to sports radio in like a solid week. I haven't listened to it all week because I just can't do it. I can't listen to them recap the Mets stuff and talk up the Yankees and everything, and like, it's just absolutely painful. But with the playoffs chug on, let's take a look. I haven't even watched any of the playoffs, to be quite honest with you. I haven't watched any of it because I needed a break. I needed to pull myself away for a minute and take a break. But the Yankees lead on the Guardians 4-1. They got rained out tonight, and they'll continue that on Friday. Dodgers rocked the Padres in the first game, and the Padres beat the Dodgers in the second game last night as of this recording. I think the Phillies took game one of their series against Atlanta. But now that's tied because the Braves took it game two 3-0. So that's going to be an interesting series. I think if I'm pulling for anybody, even though I know it's probably not going to happen, as Houston just needs to win one more game over the Mariners, I was rooting for the Mariners. They had like the longest playoff drought. It was like them and the Phillies had the longest playoff drought in, I might have even been sports, or just at least in baseball. I think it was like 20 years. It was like 20-something years the Mariners hadn't made the playoffs. So I'm rooting for them, but I mean, like, they're playing the Astros, and the Astros are an absolute juggernaut, so I can't imagine that they're going to get out of that series. Same way I can't imagine the Guardians are going to be getting out of their series, because to be honest with you, how did that shake out? The Guardians won 92 games, but their division was garbage. The Royals sucked, the Tigers sucked, the Twins sucked. The White Sox were a dumpster fire all year. Tony La Russa was falling asleep on the bench. The Guardians won it by 11 games. So, like, they won that division by default. Not necessarily because they were an amazing team. They did win 92 games, but they played in a garbage division. So you knew that the Yankees were going to take care of business on that one, because, like, the Yankees are you know, they have their flaws. Their bullpen's a little flawed. Their lineup outside of Judge is a little flawed, but you knew that they were going to take care of business. You know what I mean? Like they were a juggernaut all year, so you can't imagine that they were just going to roll over and lose to the Guardians, a team that again won their division basically by default. But moving on, because we know where this is going. It's ultimately going to be Yankees versus Astros. That's where we're headed in the ALCS, and ultimately, I think the Astros are going to beat them again because I don't think the Yankees got the firepower to do it. You know, I don't necessarily believe in all of their pitching. And I think and ultimately I think the Astros have a better lineup than the Yankees do because I don't believe in Josh Donaldson. I don't believe in IKF or Glaber or Rizzo's back is brutal. Hicks stinks. Harrison Bader's a better glove than he is a bat, even though he did get his first Yankee home run, and I might even been his first playoff home run. I believe in game 1. Yeah, well, it has to be game 1 because they didn't play game 2. So yeah, got his first playoff home run. You know, outside of Judge, I feel like the Yankee lineup is very sketchy and hit or miss. So I don't think that they'd get past the Astros. And that's not me being a hater. I like to joke that I feel like I have more confidence in the Yankees than most Yankee fans because I am a child of the early to mid 90s. And I grew up in the I was born in 92, so I grew up in the mid 90s, early 2000s when the Yankees were just beating everybody. So I know that when all else fails, the Yankees are going to make the playoffs and the Yankees are going to be a team contending for a World Series. I know it. Even when Yankee fans are calling up radio stations, calling for the manager to be fired when they're winning over 90 games or winning close to 100 games, I know that they'll probably be in contention for a World Series and you know, they're just getting mad over nothing, and I'm proved to be right most of the time. I'm pretty right, but I this time I just don't see them getting past Houston if it makes it that far. Because you know, maybe Cleveland shocks everybody. Maybe Cleveland shocks the world and they take out the New York Yankees, which would probably bring me back to listening to sports radio because I would love to hear the Yankee fans calling up WFAN or any of these sports stations losing their minds. Because all Yankee fans and Braves fans were doing was dancing on Mets fans' graves when they lost to the Padres. And I would just love nothing more than them to be humbled. I'm not rooting for the Phillies, but if the Phillies knock off the Braves, I won't be mad. If the Guardians knock off the Yankees, which I know isn't going to happen, but if they did, I wouldn't be upset. Because that's the thing. I don't really necessarily care all that much about the Yankees because they don't play in the NL East. They're a non-factor for the Mets unless it's a Subway Series. But it's just like the Yankee fans are some of the worst fans in all of sports. Like I got family members that are Yankee fans, and my girlfriend's dad is a Yankee fan, and I can respect them. They're cool. They're not bad. But for the most part, a lot of Yankee fans are the worst fans in sports. It's like them and Cowboys fans are the worst fans in all of sports. Eagles fans might be up there too, but maybe I'm just a little biased, but it's freaking terrible. Yankee fans, feel free to hop in the comments and roast me if you'd like, but your fandom is garbage. And that's not even to say that Met fans are any better, because Met fans are just some of us are just miserable excuses for human beings. I can't tell you how many people I had to just read were just doomsday people, even going into the playoffs. Like they were making the playoffs and just not happy about it, and doing everything they could to rag on them and stuff like that. And look, I get you can be upset about the Mets losing, but come on now. Let's stop with this same, like I said, let's stop with the same old Mets crap, because you know next year they're going to put a competitive team on the field. I'm sorry. There's no way Steve Cohen is going to take this team, and this is not the Wilpon Mets. You know, they're going to do everything that they can to put the best competitive team they possibly can on the field, and the Mets will probably have like a $500 million payroll next year. You know what I mean? Stevie Cohen is going to do whatever he can to put a contender on the field. I have no doubt in my mind that that is what's coming. That's all the baseball stuff I got for you today. What I wanted to get into was a little bit more football, because I can't believe that I'm saying this, but I can't wait for the Giants to play the Ravens this weekend. That's crazy to me. I would have thought by this point in the season, that being, what day of the week is that? That's the 16th, I think. Yeah, 16th. I would have not thought by October 16th I would be watching meaningful Giants football games because usually they're done in the beginning of the year. But the Giants are 4-1. They had 4 wins all the last year, but the Giants are 4-1 right now. They just beat the Packers in London. Beat the former MVP of the league and Aaron Rodgers. The defense, whom I can't name you more than 3 players, maybe. Literally, the Giants were injury ridden. I think they were asking. I think a reporter had asked somebody on the Giants who's on the injured list, and I think they said, I think a better question is who's not on the injured list. Riddled with injuries. A lot of players that you couldn't even name. No household names. Used car salesman is what I like to call them. Goes in against the Packers, one of the better teams in the NFL, one of the better teams in the NFC, and takes care of business. Pitched a shutout in the second half. Like I said, the defense looked great, was getting pressure, even without Azeez Ojulari and Leonard Williams. Still getting pressure on the quarterback, shutting down receivers. I know there's no world beaters on the Packers, but Aaron Rodgers still makes people around him look good. Took down the running game. The Packers had a great running game going into that game against the Giants, and they basically neutralized Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. And then the offense took care of business. Saquon still looked like Saquon. Daniel Jones, look, Daniel Jones has gotten a lot of crap over the last few years, rightfully so, because he's been mediocre. He had an okay first year. They were still a garbage team. Had an okay first year, and then every year since then has been hurt or turning the ball over like nobody's business, turning the ball over like he was playing for the other team. But this year, he's got 3 game-winning drives, has made some solid throws, hasn't been turning the ball over, and has shown you that if you give him a solid coaching staff and somebody who can work with him, put a nice scheme around him, he can use his legs to run for first downs. He can use his legs to extend plays and make some accurate throws downfield. Like Daniel Jones, it's night and day. Looks like a completely different quarterback under Brian Daboll than he did under Pat Shurmur or Joe Judge. Brian Daboll has to be the leading frontrunner for Coach of the Year. Having the New York Football Giants, a team that everybody thought was going to be in the basement of the league, picking top 5 again because they had zero talent, in a wild card spot, tied for second place in the division, I believe, right? I think they're tied for second place in the division with the Cowboys. A position that nobody expected. You know, like I got laughed at. They just beat, who did they play 2 weeks ago? It was the Titans. Let me take a look. Hold on. New York Giants. I forgot who they played I forgot who they played 2 weeks ago. New York Giants. Let's take a look at the schedule, because I totally forgot the Giants schedule, because it was the Titans, then it was the Panthers, then it was the Cowboys. Yeah, it was the Bears. Okay, so they go in and they play the Bears. And the Bears are a garbage team. They just barely beat they beat the Bears, but you can't really Daniel Jones got hurt, and it was an ugly game, but they beat the Bears. And I said in a family group chat, I'm getting crazy. The Giants are going to go in and they're going to beat the Packers. And they all laughed at me. They're like, they're going to get steamrolled. Daniel Jones sucks. The Packers are good, yada, yada, yada. And what happened? I was right. The Giants went in and they beat the Packers. Sure, it wasn't in Lambeau. It was in London. Still, it's a win against a good football team. So how could you not believe? Saquon looks like an absolute animal. Like I said, Daniel Jones looks good, even though he's got no receivers. Kenny Golladay, scrub. He's hurt. Kadarius Toney can't get on the field. He's literally been hurt since they drafted him. Wan'Dale Robinson, he's been hurt since the first game of the season. Shep, out for the year because he tears an ACL again. He's got, what's his name? Richie James, I think is his name. Darius Slayton. David Sills, who has been a zero basically since he got here. Daniel Bellinger, who's been a great tight end, a really good tight end so far. Like, they don't have these premier weapons that you would expect them that you would expect them to need to really produce. And DJ's performing anyway. It's great. Like, I wonder like how many games it's going to take for people to actually start believing that Daniel Jones might be the truth, or at least a competent quarterback that could win in this league and be successful in this league. Because right now he's looking like it. He's got a team that nobody expected to be any good, 4-1 in the hunt for a playoff spot. I know it's still early, but they're in the hunt for a playoff spot. The Giants are out by now. The Giants are 4-1. They had 4 wins all last year. So look, they're getting healthy. Leonard Williams is coming back. Ojulari's probably coming back. They're home to the Ravens, I believe, and go in if they beat the Ravens, a perennial Super Bowl favorite. How could you not be on top of the moon? And I have to let me see. I'm gonna see if I could find this. I'm gonna see if I could find this tweet because there was or video because there was this analyst for ESPN on Get Up that was basically saying it doesn't pay to be mediocre, and while the Giants look good right now and winning and trying to contend for a playoff spot is fun for the fans, it's bad for the team and they should just lose to get a high draft pick. Let's see, is this gonna play? You guys gonna hear this? You will. Okay, so hold on. We're going to switch right here. I hope I don't get DMCA'd for this, but here we go. We're going to pull this up. This is off of ESPN. I'm going to start from the beginning. I'm going to pause it, bring it here, and unmute. Here we go.
That just being mediocre in the middle of the pack doesn't help you. Be terrible. Get a high draft pick. Like, you got to think about the rebuild. Honestly, you got to think about the rebuild. With the Giants, there's a future beyond just this season. And with so many question marks, them making the playoffs is great for the fans and our staff. I love it. But then a lot of questions need to be answered.
Is Daniel Jones?
Chris Canty looked like they literally just put like lemon slices in his mouth. Like he looked like he looked like that was like such a painful answer to the New York Giants, or a painful suggestion to the New York Giants, that he couldn't even understand where that was coming from, because I don't either. I've watched the Jets be terrible forever. I've watched the Lions be terrible forever. I've watched the Browns be terrible forever, and Jacksonville be terrible forever. I don't want to be the Jets, where they've been searching for a quarterback since Joe Namath. I don't want to be the Jaguars, where they've been searching for a quarterback forever and maybe have one with Trevor Lawrence, and the Jets maybe have one with Zach Wilson. I don't want to be those guys. You know what I mean? Like, because for every Josh Allen, for every Josh Allen, for every Pat Mahomes, for every Andrew Luck when he was here, for all those guys, you get your Ryan Tannehills, who was a bum in Miami, and it doesn't look all that great with Tennessee this year. You get Josh Rosen, who was garbage, so bad in Arizona that they drafted Kyler Murray the following year. You get Baker Mayfield, who, sure, he made the playoffs with the Browns, but really hasn't been all that impressive since. There's been so many busts at the top of the draft. How are you going to tell me that losing and being one of the worst teams in football is going to guarantee the Giants get their franchise quarterback going into the year? How? Like, how is this the Giants being 4-1 in contention for a playoff spot with a solid coaching staff, a team that you realistically could see go and beat the Ravens? How is that bad for this team? How is it bad to teach this team, who's been a bad team for 7 years? The Giants have been picking top 5 in the draft for the last 4 or 5 years. It might even be more than that. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's been a while. They've been picking top 10. And it hasn't worked. It hasn't made them this perennial playoff contender until this year. Coaching matters. No, the Giants the Giants shouldn't be trying to lose. That's such a lazy argument and a stupid point. Like, ESPN, be better. Have your analysts be better and actually give educated takes, rather than saying, oh, well, you should just tank and lose. No. Football's supposed to be entertainment. Sports are supposed to be entertainment. And guess what? A tanking team is not entertaining. You know what is entertaining? An underdog team that nobody expected to be anything actually competing. You know, like, if this team has the coaching staff and the people around it to make them a contender and make them be good on the field every Sunday, I'm confident that they have the people in the front office that will make the moves to make them better going forward. So no, it's not. The answer is not to lose. The answer is not to tank. The answer is to keep moving forward, keep pressing on, win. Be a competent football team because this is fun. I'm excited for Sunday, and I did not expect that. I did not expect it to be excited for this Sunday. But I am. And I think that they can beat the Ravens. If they can neutralize that if they can neutralize the Russian attack and maybe take out some of those deep threats, maybe keep Rashad Bateman quiet, and Mark Andrews quiet, I think the Giants can absolutely win this game. The Ravens defensive line is still a little scary. They could still get to the quarterback, but their secondary not amazing. They could definitely find some holes. So that just really annoyed me because like the Giants are showing you that they can be a competing team this year, and to suggest anything else, to suggest that you should just lose on purpose, tank on purpose is just so unbelievably dumb. I don't know how somebody could have that take and still have their job as an analyst. It's amazing to me actually. But let's go Giants. That's going to be super exciting. More NFL news that came out though. So we've known that the NFL has had its beef with Dan Snyder, the owner of the Washington Commanders, for years. He's been problematic. He's been under investigation. He's had problems with sexual assault. He just seems like an all around bad guy. I think he's got former cheerleaders trying to sue him and take him to court for being an absolute garbage person. Well, he's starting to look like an animal that's been backed into a corner because allegedly an article came out from ESPN saying that Dan Snyder believes that he's got dirt on more NFL owners and is willing to come forward and blow up all of these guys' spots. Now, shocker, there's a bunch of billionaire white owners in the NFL who aren't good people. Shocker there, but Dan Snyder is looking at it like, okay, if I can't own this team and you guys want to kick me out, I'm dragging you all down with me. Because apparently he's hired a private investigator to follow some of them. Apparently he's got, according to the article, he's got a whole file on Jerry Jones, which, you know, if you told me Jerry Jones had a problematic past, I would not be shocked whatsoever. But Dan Snyder is looking like to blow. He said he's even got stuff on, allegedly has stuff on Roger Goodell. So much so that there were former executives that were with the Commanders at one point, saying how he says he's got dirt on everybody. He's got dirt on a bunch of owners and is one of the most powerful people in the NFL, which would explain why he hasn't been voted out yet. It would explain why he hasn't been voted out, because the NFL owners can vote him out as an owner. They can say, "Hey, dude, kick rocks, get out of here. You're bad for the brand, bad for the shield, and we don't want you a part of our exclusive owners club anymore." That would explain why that hasn't happened yet, because he's got so much dirt on some of these other owners who I would not be shocked have shady pasts. You always find out that billionaires a lot of them wind up having some kind of shady past or some shady dealings. I don't know what happens, but you make a lot of money. You make billions of dollars, and at some point you just become a garbage human. Not all of them, I imagine. If you make a lot of money, they're not all bad people, but you know. It's just really interesting. I wonder really how this is all going to shake out, because, you know, it sucks because you'd want to see Dan Snyder not be a part of the NFL anymore just because of how bad of a person he is. And I want that to happen because I want this to come out. I feel like he should. If there's bad people as owners in the NFL, bring it to light. Let us know. Let the world know, and let them answer for the problems that they have caused, or the issues that they or the skeletons that they have in their closet. Let us know. Come on, bring it. I want to hear it. Because if they are garbage people, if they are just as bad as Dan Snyder, they shouldn't own their teams. But then, you know, it also comes to the whole, like, are you really going to punish them? Because what's going to happen? You know, like, if these all come to light and a lot of these owners come out as bad people and they have to sell their teams, like, they'll be fined or forced to sell. And if they're forced to sell, they're still going to get like billions of dollars. You know, like, sports teams are worth billions. Like, the Mets were bought for like $6 billion, I think. And football's king. Football makes Prince money. So you'd have to imagine that a lot of those franchises are worth tens of billions, or maybe not that much, but a lot of money. So these owners will come out being bad people, and you'll force them to sell and kick them out of the league, and then they'll leave and still wind up on top with even more money in their pockets. So is it really a punishment? You know, apparently, like, all the owners, Dan Snyder's alleging that all the owners hate each other, and And it's not really this close-knit club that everybody likes to believe. And that wouldn't surprise me if the owners really didn't like each other, because they're all billionaires that are just trying to compete for dominance. It's all like alpha male stuff. You know what I mean? Like you just want to be the dominant guy. And I wouldn't be shocked if they hate each other. I believe one of the unnamed executives said, no, they don't hate each other. They just hate Dan Snyder. But this ain't going to help that. This really ain't going to help that. And I like the NFL is just like, I feel like they hate and love this stuff all at the same time, because it's all of this controversy that just gets everybody involved. You know what I mean? Like all of the crazy news and pop culture-esque news is what keeps other people involved. All like the social justice and all the issues and all the problems, that keeps all the outside people involved, because everybody likes to talk about it. And then all the football stuff keeps all the football fans involved. Like literally the NFL brings everybody in because they have their football stuff on the field and all of their controversy. Like everybody is consistently talking about the NFL. Bad press is good press, because the NFL is not without its scars. You know, they were hiding concussions for years. They were doling out bad penalties to sex offenders and giving them second chances, or people that abuse women, they get second chances. You know, the NFL has got its scars, and this is just another one that's going to come up. You know, I would imagine that at some point Dan Snyder is going to go crazy. He's going to tell us all what his private investigators found or what other dirt he has, and we'll see what happens. It'll just be another thing that the NFL dominates the news cycle with. It's just like Dan Snyder just looks like an animal backed into a corner. He's like, okay, if you guys want to take me out, I'm taking you all out with me. I'm taking the rest of you out with me. And I'm curious to see where that winds up going, because I'm not shocked. I would not be shocked one bit to see more names. I would not, if Dan Snyder's really got all this information, it doesn't make him a better person. He's still a terrible person. But it wouldn't surprise me if there were more terrible people owning NFL teams. Because, you know, a lot of these big-time old money billionaires don't have an amazing track record. There's always some shady stuff in the back end that they keep under wraps because they have so much money and have a lot of influence. You know, like, it would not shock me if we get some crazy damning evidence on a lot of these guys, but it's going to be interesting to see how all this shakes out. And I'm going to be glued to it, you know, because I feel like that's the fun part about sports. It's the sports themselves and all of the extracurricular news that comes out on it. You know what I mean? Like that's one of the problems. That's why the NFL is king, because the NFL owns a day. It owns Sundays and Mondays a little bit, but owns Sunday. And then dominates the headlines because there's always some kind of, you know, big crazy news in regards to something on the field, where a bad call or a big upset or a big win. And then there's also the scandals that everybody talks about. So everybody's always talking about the NFL. It always dominates the headlines, and good, bad, or indifferent, it always winds up benefiting the NFL because more people pay attention. Other sports don't really have that outside of the NBA. The NBA gets a little bit where there's crazy scandals or crazy news with the players, you know, players fighting or, you know, coming out with, like, there's always crazy headlines where everybody focuses on the NBA. But the NFL is still king. And this whole Dan Snyder thing is another one to just add to it. It's crazy, though. It's so crazy that this dude has been like a pariah for the NFL for years. And all he's been doing, he's been sitting back, being a scummy person, just jotting down everything. He's like, I know I'm a bad guy, but I'm taking all you guys out with me. When you guys finally snap and you want to come at me, I'm coming at you. You're screwed. It's going to be really interesting to see where all of this goes. And I am here for the drama. It's what makes sports fun. The drama and on the field. It's what keeps things like this alive. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be able to just do a sports show if I was just talking about, well, this team won and this team lost. No, you need the drama. You need all of that. You need people bickering and fighting with each other. You need freaking owners, billionaire owners, just going cannibalistic on each other and taking each other out, you know? And I really wonder what dirt he's got on Goodell, because Goodell just, I love it. Goodell's like the South Park rendition of him, where he's basically just an android. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I've never seen Roger Goodell speak outside of like NFL sanctioned things where he's going doing some prepared speech or the draft. You know, like I feel like other than that, I never see Goodell speak. You just see him sitting in one of the boxes or one of the suites at a game, just like laughing and doing his programmed enjoyment of the football game. But literally, of all of them, I'd have to say I would imagine Jerry Jones probably is the biggest problematic file. If Dan Snyder actually has this file full of bad things that these owners have done, I just feel like Jerry Jones this is probably huge. It's probably like that thick. It might even be 2 files. Big guy. I think he was it oil money that he was in. If I'm wrong, please somebody let me know in the comments. But big owner, billionaire from Texas. Would not be shocked if he's got a problematic past. We're coming close to the end of the show, everybody. I appreciate you being here. I'm really excited for the Islander season to kick off tonight. It actually probably just kicked off now. Now that I'm looking at the time. I'm really excited. You know, Barzell signed for 8 more years. It sounds like, you know, Lane Lambert looks like he's got the belief in this team, which is pretty cool. Ilya Sorokin made it out of Russia. He's starting tonight. Again, I'm watching on recording this on Thursday, so it's going to be exciting to see. They don't have that long road trip that they had to start last year, and they're not going to, hopefully, knock on wood, get riddled with COVID or really bad COVID. So it'll be interesting to see where this season goes. Hopefully a lot better, and hopefully they get back into their winning ways, because let's remember, this was a team that went to back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals. So this should be very exciting. Let's go Islanders. But guys, that's all the time I have. Thank you so much for listening, watching, being here. I really, really, really appreciate all of you. I'm going to try to be more consistent with all this stuff, make sure that I get all my my content out, because I'm having a lot of fun. I love doing this stuff. I just love speaking into the void. I just love talking sports. And if you could, please hop in the comments. Let me know what you think. I do not, contrary to what some of the people say in my comments on my first video, I do not delete comments unless they're harassing or suggesting violence. I will not delete comments. You know, let me know what you think of the show, what you liked, what you didn't like, what you'd like to see change, what you'd like to see added. I'm open to all of it. Please hit me with a follow, hit me with a subscribe, hit the subscribe bell so you know when I'm going live. And man, I really appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Please hit, like I said, also like is very important. At some point, all of this stuff is going to wind up on podcasting platforms. I just need a few more episodes to make that legit. And thank you guys for being here. As always, I will see you all next week. Peace out, everybody.